Trump's socialist slur puts Democratic contenders on defensive. Bloomberg President Donald Trump's favorite attack line is calling Democrats socialists for advocating wealth redistribution, nationalized health care and other ideas he depicts as downright un-American. The president's offensive leaves Democratic presidential candidates doing a delicate dance, embracing more left-leaning policies without getting tagged with a politically damaging that many shun. Trump is seizing on a wide-ranging debate within the Democratic Party about moderating the excesses of U.S. capitalism after decades of rising income inequality. The 2020 candidates support policies to expand the social safety net that many Republican voters consider anathema, including wider health care coverage, higher taxes on the rich, tougher financial regulation, student debt forgiveness and an increase in the minimum wage. The Democrats ignore the president's efforts to tar them with the S-word at their own peril, says Neera Tandon, who runs the Center for American Progress, a liberal think tank. I've seen this in some polling on socialism and other issues. Donald Trump has a gigantic megaphone and he does have the ability to define the terms of debate, Tandon said. Democrats can't. All of the 24 Democratic candidates except Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders reject the socialist tag. Most ignore it,
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.